Welcome to the Kingdom Podcast, featuring Commissioner Christine King, where all voices are heard.
Welcome to the Kingdom Podcast. I am your host, Christine King, Chairwoman of the City of Miami Commission and Commissioner for District 5. Today joining me is Danny Felton of the Mortgage Experts. He is the founder of the Mortgage Experts. He is also a Miami native, born in District 5, and he is helping me create homeownership opportunities for low to moderate income families and realizing the American dream. Welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me on this show today. I'm glad to be here to really have this conversation about homeownership, specifically during Homeownership Month. The month
Absolutely. You have helped me bring homeownership to how many families now?
I think we're up to about 7 or 8.
Somewhere in that neighborhood, 7, 8, might be a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And every time we have a key ceremony and hand a family keys to their forever home, I want to cry because I know what a difference being a homeowner makes for a family. And I believe every single one of our families have never owned a home. And obviously they've never owned a home because it's the first time home buyer. But what I'm trying to say is they didn't grow up in a home.
Mm-hmm.
They grew up in apartments, and they've been living in apartments all of their life until the moment that we hand them their keys. And you are also part of a organization, a realtors organization, but you call yourselves realists.
Realtist.
Say it for me so I don't mess it up.
Realtist.
And it's with NARAB, which means?
The National Association of Real Estate Brokers.
National Association of Real Estate Brokers. But it is your mission to bring homeownership opportunities to minority Black families, correct?
Correct. I mean, our motto is democracy, creating democracy in housing, which basically means that everyone deserves to own a home. And so we have a focus on making sure that not only we are able to represent the communities that we are serving, but we're also able to advocate to close the wealth gap. And so we're very intentional about making sure we provide access. We're intentional about making sure we provide affordability, and we are very intentional about advocating for those communities as well.
I love that. And I'm not sure how we stumbled on our partnership, but I'm sure God has had a hand in it, because when I got elected, really the biggest thing that I wanted to accomplish was to create homeownership opportunities for families who otherwise would not be able to achieve the American dream. And the first thing I did was set aside $3 million from our bond, the Miami Forever bond, to hold a second mortgage of up to $200,000 to bring the cost down of a home. And then I made the program stackable so that someone could get down payment assistance, closing cost assistance, in addition to the assistance I'm providing. And then you stepped in, understanding, because not all lenders understand. You stepped in and, as in a relay race, carried the baton through the finish line by funding. I don't know if I'm using the correct mortgage term, but financing, approving the mortgage, and making the numbers work. So families who are earning between 60% AMI and 120% AMI can qualify to be a homeowner. And then I also used infill lots, vacant, overgrown lots in District 5, and started building single-family homes and townhouses, which I'm selling at cost that even further brought the cost down. And I know we had one instance where there was a single family home for $300,000, and after all of the subsidies, the mortgage was $80,000. And that is unheard of. To explain that so, other folks could understand what we're doing.
Well, Chairwoman, first I have to say your idea and your vision was brilliant. Because many times we have elected officials that they have an idea, but they don't put the concepts together in terms of how to put all the pieces. They got all the pieces to the puzzle, but they don't bring the right people in to actually make those work. And I remember the first time we met and I heard about your initiative, and I was like, oh, that's right on point, because you mentioned earlier, I actually serve as the first vice president of the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, NARAB, which was formed in 1947 at a time when African Americans were not allowed to be a part of the Realtor organization. So 13 individuals came together and formed this organization, and it's basically, we created our own table. And so for over 78 years, we've been advocating for individuals of color. But hearing your idea, being from District 5, hearing the concept, we actually produce a white paper every year. And that white paper is called the Sheba Report, State of Housing in Black America. And in that report, we identify all of the impediments that we face in our community. And so there were 3 things that popped out in the last report in terms of why we have over 2 million mortgage-ready buyers that do not own a home. 2 million. And so what's the reason? And so there were 3 things that popped out. One of them was a lack of affordable inventory. The second was a lack of capital. They don't have the funds, the upfront down payment, closing costs, and prepaid items. And then the last thing was actually buyer confidence. A lot of borrowers feel like they cannot afford to buy because the house prices are so high, and it's just, the difference between what they take home and what they pay to actually be able to sustain their home is such a far reach. Or
Right.
You have issues where many of them are first generational home buyers.
Yes.
No one in their home ever owned a house, so it's like, is home ownership really achievable? So hearing about your program, hearing about your initiative, it was like, wow, this hits all of the points. You're talking about you're going to provide the inventory, right?
Mm-hmm.
By building homes, you're going to provide a down payment assistance to actually be able to bridge the gap between what I qualify for and what I could afford. Because one of the things I always teach a borrower is don't buy what you qualify for. Buy what you can afford, because
Right.
there's a difference.
Mm-hmm.
When we get qualified, many times borrowers get qualified based off of their gross income. And we all know we don't bring home the gross, but then there's other things that's taken in consideration. When that loan officer is looking at your credit report and I still have insurance that's not on my credit report, I still have to buy groceries, I still have to pay for childcare, all of these things are not on my credit report. So those are the things that I have to take in consideration when I'm putting together my budget. So being able to buy a place, which is one of our basic needs, shelter, but buy it at a place where it's not making me house poor.
Right.
And so being able to hear that you were putting together, not just the collateral, you're also being able to put the down payment, but now being able to display this to other individuals, because that underlining message, what makes me happy when we go out and do that ribbon cutting, it's kind of a resounding, echoing noise that says, you know what, if she can do it, I can do it.
Absolutely. We had a workshop on how to become a homeowner. I think we do this workshop twice a year because I do it in partnership with you. And there was a young lady at the last workshop, and you talked about those 3, and I stepped up and said, well, this is what I'm doing for that, and this is what I'm doing for that. And this young lady in the audience said, I can be a homeowner. I can do this. Mm-hmm. And now she's on the path to becoming a homeowner. And it benefits everyone, because now you become a stakeholder in your community, and the lives of your children are more likely to go to college, trade school, higher education, and you're likely to get even a better job. Mm-hmm. And I just, it's the right thing to do. And it wasn't easy because I get a lot of ideas, but the implementation of the ideas and creating the legislation, I think I had to go back 3 or 4 times to amend the legislation to make sure. But I don't tire easily. I don't tire easily, and I wouldn't care if I had to go back 50 times to get it right. That's what we're going to do. And just being able to see the faces of the children, where this one young man, the mom didn't tell them that they were getting a house. And when they walked into the house and this was his room, and he said, "We're not going to live in an apartment anymore?" And she said, "This is our home." And I think I get it right. I get it right as a public servant. I get it right with this initiative. And it means so much to me.
You know, building, or should I say, home ownership is really not just about a person getting a house.
It's
like
not.
you said earlier, it's really about changing a person's future.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's about stabilizing communities. It's about creating a legacy.
Building generational wealth.
Generational wealth, you know, to be able to pass on. I mean, and just looking at some of the deals that I've been involved with, being able to see an individual, first of all, feel like they couldn't own a home because the point of entry to owning a home is $400,000, $350,000, $500,000.
Yes.
And here it is, you know, I did everything right. I got a job, I've protected my credit, I've saved my money, but you're telling me I can't own a home because, you know, the mortgage can only represent 1/3 of my income.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guess what? Here it is. We bridge a program which will provide down payment assistance to kind of cover that gap.
Yes.
Where now I can still have that $400,000 home, that $300,000 home, and get being able to tap into and learn about the down payment assistance programs that are available that many people don't know. You know, that you can stack, as you said earlier,
Right,
meaning that
right.
they could take your program, which provides up to $250,000. They could take another program from the city of Miami. They could take Miami-Dade Miami-Dade Economic Advocacy Trust program. MD, by the way. They can also take the Miami-Dade Public Housing Program and stack those programs. And at the end of the day, like you said, they could purchase a home for $350,000, $400,000, and their loan amount is $100,000, $120,000. Now you're paying in a mortgage what you would actually in most cases less than what you're paying
in rent, because that's what one of the homeowners said to me. I'm paying less in mortgage than I was paying in rent.
That's amazing.
It is. You get amazing tax incentives as a homeowner. You get to write off the insurance and the taxes from your home, whereas in an apartment you can't do that. And and I'm also providing affordable housing through apartments as well, because everybody's not ready. So because I want to make sure everyone has stability in their home, wherever they are in that process. But being able to own your own home, being able to pass something down to your children, creating that generational wealth, it's a game changer. Yeah. It really does change the trajectory of their lives.
Yeah, it's just, when I think about home ownership and I think about these borrowers that we've been able to impact, and just everyone in a whole, when they think about, hey, how do I actually get to where I start paying my own mortgage? I do a chart in the class that kind of outlines all of the rents from like $1,500, $1,200, and then I do it over a term. Let's say this is how much you've paid for 5 years. This is how much you've paid for 10 years. This is how much you've paid for 15 years. And then when we take a census around the class of individuals that say, hey, I've been renting, for the last 15 years and I've been paying $2,000, and they see that they've paid hundreds of thousands of dollars towards their landlord mortgage.
Yep.
It becomes a true motivator that,
Absolutely.
I can't afford not to start being disciplined and purchasing, investing in myself and buying my home. So
because many of the down payment requirements for our program is the cost of an iPhone. Just saying. Yeah. What's important. we're going to have a workshop this month as well, a home ownership workshop. If you want to become a first-time home buyer, we're also going to have a workshop for that. And we do it, again, like twice a year, because I want as many people as possible to get into this program and own their home, be homeowners, be stakeholders. What advice would you give someone who may be watching this podcast or listening to this podcast, and I'm sure they're thinking, there's a trick, it's too good to be true? What advice would you give that person?
I would say invest your time before you invest your money. When we talk about these workshops, first of all, the workshops are free, right? So it's just a matter of being able to come and hear from industry professionals. We're talking about a HUD-approved workshop that during the workshop there are different individuals that come in and they speak to the specific areas. So we have someone to come in and talk about budgeting and crediting. We'll have someone to come in and talk about the inspection process. That'll come in and talk about the real estate process. They'll talk about the closing process. They'll talk about how to access down payment assistance. We'll have different lending partners come in and talk about the actual financial part of it. So a borrower leaves there more informed and educated about this process. Because like I say to them, many of you, this will probably be far the biggest financial decision that you'll make in your life. But this decision could change the trajectory of your life and your family's life.
Right.
And so I think sitting in a class for 8 hours or, and understanding what that process entails and how do I become, where I can participate in that process, it's worth the time.
And it takes the mystery out of it. The workshops really explain what is needed. So once you have the knowledge, it's yours to run away with. It's yours to do with. But those workshops are essential because it takes the mystery out of this thing called home ownership. If you had to give anyone advice, because you own several properties, you are both a homeowner and a landlord, as am I as well, what advice would you give someone looking to become a homeowner or just looking to get into real estate?
The best time to get in real estate is right now. You'll hear people say, oh, no, now's not the right time. Oh, interest rates are up. Or, at the end of the day, like I said earlier, you're going to pay either your mortgage or someone else's mortgage, but home ownership is achievable for everyone. What's interesting is that I always say I didn't come from money, right?
Neither did I.
Right? But my kids can't have that same story. It was my commitment, right? And so when I look at my father, sixth grade education, they came through a different era. Segregation, so on. He bought his first home right here, 1435 in District 5, right? And so what was interesting, it was 6 of us. We grew up in a 2-bedroom house, and we were comfortable. I don't have the same testimony. I wasn't poor, but I wasn't rich.
Right.
But I was comfortable where we were.
Right.
You know what I mean? We had bunk beds. Me and my brother, we slept in the same bed. My other 2 brothers slept on the other bed. But it was a situation that now, when I look back over the years, and I say to myself, when I was in school, I did an essay on the greatest man I know, and it was my dad. And I wrote that because my dad had a 6th grade education. He couldn't read and write. But I said, Daddy, how did you buy a house? How did you know to buy a house at that time? And to be able to hear him talk about the stories and the struggle that he had went through to purchase a home. But he knew that owning a home could change and help provide for his family, and then being able to purchase that home and sell that home and then build another home, which he still lives in today. He's 92 years old.
Oh, God bless him.
I tell you, I'm so proud of him. But at the end of the day, all of that happened because of ownership.
Yes.
If you don't own it, you really don't have any say-so in it.
Right.
And so being able to own a home, it changes so many things when we're talking about creating a business, when we're talking about sending a kid to college, when we're talking about even expanding on that home. Home ownership and appreciation and equity allows you the ability to do all of those things. So I really believe that equity is the new currency. If you don't own a home, you want to purchase a home today or find out, what do I need to do? I always say, maybe today, you might can't purchase a home, but you want to position yourself.
Right.
It might happen next year.
Right.
But you got to start. You know what I mean?
Got to start somewhere.
If the destination of home is home ownership, it's like this GPS. If I was to say my destination is the Adrian Art Center or wherever we're going to go, the first thing this thing has to determine is where you are right now.
Right.
So if home ownership is the goal, we need to look at where we are. Do I need to look at my credit? Do I need to start working on my budget? Do I need to start increasing my affordability? Do I need to start, getting my job stability in place? So the first thing is to start today, doing whatever you need to do if home ownership is the goal. And I tell you, at the end of the day, when you reach your destination, it will change not only your life, but your children's life and your children's children's lives.
Yes. And I love equity is the new currency. And it absolutely is. Equity is the new. And for our homeowners, they start off with equity. They have a lot of equity in their home because of this program. Tell me your favorite song.
My favorite song?
Do you have one?
I have several.
Give me one.
One is I Can Do All Things Through Christ That Strengthens Me.
Good song. That's a nice song. Okay. And if you could give your younger self advice, what would you say? I
would say to myself, I'm proud of you. And the reason I say that is because I truly believe that all of the challenges and the struggles and the things that I've gone through has made me to be the person that I am today.
But what would you tell your younger self?
Oh, what would I tell my younger self?
Yeah, you can't tell your younger self you're proud of him because your younger self hasn't done anything yet.
I would tell my younger self to always, life is really about experiences and exposure, to dream, never stop dreaming, to always never set boundaries on yourself, but set goals that you can achieve. And if you have to increase those goals, you do so. Dreams are goals with deadlines. I mean, I would say to myself, you know what? If you put the effort in now, it will take care of you later. Make good decisions. There's so many things that I would tell my younger self. But hindsight, looking at it, it's just, sometimes I think struggle makes us who we are.
Struggle absolutely does make us it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if I were to tell my younger
it's
self
our grit.
to do everything the right way, they wouldn't get it. Because when I look at kids today, right, I think with this social media, they see everything instant. And it looks as though it's just, they're living in an unrealistic world.
Yeah,
and so it's
fairy
dangerous.
Highlights.
Right.
It's only people's highlights real.
Right.
That's not real stuff. It's not
so
real
they don't
life.
get the daily, they don't get the when I talk about living in the same room, right? The kids, if I were to tell my kids that they had to stay in a room with their brother and sister, they'd probably be in shock. You know what I mean? But like I said, it was 4 of us in one room. But what they see, they're into this they don't see the struggle.
Yes.
When I see my son, he wants to be the best football player, the best basketball player, but he don't want to practice. How does that work?
Doesn't.
Right. You want to be pharmacist, but you're not really reading the things that you need to read to make you, better in those areas. So those are things that I would say never stop learning.
That's a good saying.
Never stop learning.
That's good advice. Never stop learning. I want to thank you for being a guest on the Kingdom Podcast, and thank you for being my partner in creating homeownership opportunities for families. It's a pleasure having you.
I am glad to be here. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity and to be a part of changing lives, because, I really believe that when we help one person to get the keys to their home, we're not just impacting that person, but we're impacting that person and everyone around them. And so thank you for that opportunity.
Thank you. This is another episode of the Kingdom Podcast. Thank you for joining us.